Hi, I'm Brendia Miller, just a girl who feels like she barely survived from being 18 to 29, from an abusive marriage to divorce, pregnant with my sweet girl to the mom of an angel, and this was all before I was even 20. Since then, I married the high school sweetheart, had a sweet boy, wrote a few books, blogs, and in 9 years, 3 states, 4 cities, 13 homes, 2 hotels, 1 angel girl, 1 sweet boy, a bunch of jobs, and an insane amount of love and laughter. Here I am, 30 years old, talking to you, sharing my wisdom from the infinite lessons I have learned while still learning to navigate around the things that I haven't. Come along and navigate with me. There is room here for your joy, your grief, your hormones, your emotions, your friendships, relationships, heartbreak, and all of the other things that come along with being in your 30s. Welcome back, 30-something gang. I'm your host, Brendia Miller. If you're new here, welcome. If you're in your 30s or just navigating life in general, you know it can feel like a roller coaster. Most of the time, probably, if your life is anything like mine anyways. We make so many decisions. Big, small, planned, and even spontaneous. Every single decision that we make shapes our lives in ways that sometimes we don't even realize at the time. But what if I told you that some of the biggest shifts in our life happen because of the tiniest, seemingly most insignificant choices we have made? Today we're diving into the idea of lucky decisions, how small choices can lead to life-changing outcomes. We'll be talking about how those everyday moments when luck seems to just intervene, and how sometimes the tiniest of moves can make all the difference. So grab you a tea, a coffee, a blanket, and let's go ahead and chat. Let's start by thinking about those little moments that have turned out to be big in our lives. You know, the ones that felt like they were going to be so inconsequential when we made them, but in hindsight, they shaped everything. The funny thing about luck is that it's not always this huge, dramatic event. It often is about those seemingly insignificant moments that turn out to be everything. It's the moments where we last minute decide to take a different job, or we move to a different city and join a class and accidentally meet our new best friend. It's about the small decisions that we make or made, really, that led to everything we ever wanted, or even the things we didn't know we wanted, but we think are so beautiful about our lives now. So I want you to take a moment and pause for reflection and think about what are some of those little decisions that you've made in your life that ended up being absolutely pivotal to the life that you have now, even though you did not know at the time the impact or the opportunity that it would bring. I have a lot of moments like this in my life because my life is just boring yet unbelievable at the same time, you know? I don't know how to explain it, but truly one of my absolute favorites is the day that I got in this elevator with my husband I'm married to now, and we were at school. We had just met like a couple days before. It was nothing serious. We were introduced by someone else, and instantly I was like, I am going to marry him. And that sounds insane and crazy, and I'm aware. We're all aware. But the point is, I ran into him like the next day in the hallway or something, and I completely disregarded the fact that I was supposed to be going to class. Got in the elevator and we talked, and I gave him my number, and quite honestly, it has been a wild ride. Let me tell you. But it's led to everything we have now, and we neither one knew that this life together was possible in such a magnificent manner. And don't get me wrong, we're not rich. We're not like doing like crazy things and, traveling the world, even though sometimes I really wish we were. Not the rich part, the traveling part. I could care less about really being rich. I just want to be comfortable, But that's really what I'm getting at. We're not rich, but we're really comfortable. And we have a good life, and we're building our future together, and our marriage is better than I ever thought it would be if you asked me the first year. If you asked me the second year, I probably would have thought we wouldn't even be together by this point, because marriage was so hard and we just put so much effort and work into it. And so to have what we have now is so magnificent, but not getting in that elevator and not giving him my number, we may never have had this. Maybe you went to a party you almost didn't go to, or took a chance on a job that didn't seem perfect at first. Maybe everything turned out more amazing than you could ever imagine. The cool thing about life is that those moments don't always look important at the time, but later on, they reveal themselves to be so huge. Now let's talk about how small decisions can create a ripple effect. How one seemingly tiny choice can snowball into something so much bigger. This is called the butterfly effect. It's a concept that suggests that small causes can have large consequences. And in our lives, this is absolutely so true. I don't know about y'all, but in my life for sure. One day we make a choice, and without realizing it, years later, we're able to look back and see that one moment set everything else into motion. It could be one moment where you're out and you had an issue that, maybe it was like a work issue. Maybe it was a work problem. Something you needed to figure out for work. And you found the solution. And it set your career on fire. Or maybe you weren't looking for a solution. Maybe you were looking for inspiration. And the choice to not be scared and submit your inspiration to the world to judge paid off in a big way. Maybe it's a move to a new city. Maybe you did it on a whim. Me and my husband have done that. I know that's not like a big thing for people, especially in this economy, but we have moved on a whim. We moved back home within 12 hours of deciding to move back home. It's just crazy. Maybe, you took a job and you met the love of your life. It can be something that feels so small and so simple that just ignites a whole new chapter. The more I reflect on my life, the more I realize that those small decisions really are the ones that set the stage for everything that follows. Everything. Sometimes luck isn't about a huge opportunity landing in our lap. And oftentimes, I'll be honest with you, I've found out that the huge opportunities usually don't turn out the way that you thought they were, because they're promising more than they can deliver. Sometimes, though, it's about just trusting our gut when making a small decision. How often do we have those moments when we feel like something is just perfect, just right, just as it should be? You might not know why, but you just have this feeling that it's the right choice. And I think when you follow that gut feeling, it can often lead to something better than we could ever expect or dream of or even put together in our own creative minds. You know, one of my absolute favorite movies, it starts out by saying, the narration starts out by saying anyways, I have a theory too. My theory is about moments of impact. My theory is that these moments of impact, these flashes of high intensity that completely turn our lives upside down, actually end up defining who we are. And if you don't know what movie that's from, it's from The Vow. I love that movie. It's one of my absolute favorite movies. But I think those moments of high intensity are the moments where we can make the opposite choice, but we just follow our gut and we go with it because it feels right and it feels good. And it turns out truly defining our life. And I think it's so beautiful. I think it's such a beautiful quote because it's true to everyday life. And, you know, the thing about luck is oftentimes it is timing. I think that movie is a really good example of luck, you know, the faith of them meeting and all of that. But it's also a good metaphor for how it really is. And often luck is about timing. And how many of us have taken a leap of faith and it just happened to be the right time? You quit your job before they closed down your department. You got on an elevator at the absolute right time. Whatever it may be, maybe you just decided to say yes to something when you normally would have said no, and you ended up getting an opportunity or making a connection or just even having an experience that was absolutely life-changing. And I mean, don't get me wrong, of course not every small decision leads to what we'd consider lucky outcomes and life-changing and just amazing, magnificent, you know, all of that. Sometimes we make mistakes and decisions that we wish we could take back. But here's the thing, even those failures can be luck in disguise, and sometimes they teach us lessons that we wouldn't have learned any other way, that get us where we really need to be, the lessons that carry us, the lessons that build the foundation for the amazing life. You know, I have made some wild decisions and not really understood the consequence of those decisions, and it really did feel like, you know, a failure. But there's times where I thank God for the mistakes I made. You know, I truly do. When I got married the first time, he was a POS and he was abusive, and I instantly regretted it. The day we were getting married, I looked at my mom as I was getting in my wedding dress, and I was like, would you be mad at me if we didn't get married and we just had a party? But the issue was I could not look him in the face and tell him that as we were already at the church. And I felt so guilty because my mom went ahead and paid for all of this stuff. And, you know, we had friends that came out, and people were great. And quite honestly, so many times I felt bad and I wished we had never gotten married. But had we not gotten married that day, I wouldn't have gotten pregnant a month later because we wouldn't have been together that day. And I think about that every single day because the absolute best thing that ever came out of that absolute shit show was my daughter and the 3 months and 21 days that I got with her perfect little soul. And it is just unbelievable how much even our what feels like unlucky failures and our bad choices can lead to the luckiest, most beautiful, most amazing things that we would never had without it. You know, I remember when I was married to my first husband, I threw him a birthday party. And nobody else did anything for his birthday. So I was like, I'm going to do something for his birthday because we're married. We've been married less than a month. Things were rough. He had, already been abusive by this point. And so we were there, and he threw an absolute tantrum. I'll never forget this. It was so absolutely embarrassing. My whole family was at my mom's house, and he threw a tantrum, and I don't even remember what it was about. And I had spent hundreds of dollars on these Magic the Gathering cards because he liked that crap. And I wanted him to have them, and there was hundreds of them, like hundreds of them. And he literally took the big box that like the CM Games used to give you if you had like a bunch of cards, or they'd have like laying out so you could go through cards or whatever. So he took the box and threw it at the wall in front of my whole family. And and I remember in that moment, I felt so defeated. Like there was no way that anything good could come from this hellacious marriage. Like there was no way. And I stayed. And I don't know why I stayed, to be quite honest. I think a lot of it had to do with pride. I just didn't want my first marriage to completely, fall apart. But I do remember later on after that, my mom came and she picked me up, and we were talking about the situation, and I was telling her I wasn't happy. And, I was not really telling her everything that was going on, but I was telling her a lot of stuff that was going on. Like, I wasn't talking about him threatening to unalive himself or nothing like that, or like him putting his hands on me or nothing, but I was telling her that we were struggling and we were having a very hard time, and neither one of us were happy with the situation at this point. At least I didn't feel like we were. And so just days after that, I ended up pregnant. And a month after that, I literally found out I was pregnant. And honestly, I used to wish that I had left sooner, but she was literally the best thing. The best thing for me, the best thing that came out of it, the best thing to have ever entered this world, in my opinion, besides also my other child. Yes, I'm biased. But I needed her. I needed her in a way that I never would have anticipated. And in a way that might even kind of be disgusting, because she was a child and I was her mom. She needed me. But I think a lot of parents can agree that oftentimes, we need our children just as much as they need us, but in different ways. And I needed her to be who I am today, and I'm proud of who I am today, and I'm happy with who I am today. And I am tremendously happy with the life that I have today, and the husband that I have today, for sure, and the child that I have today. And I miss her every single day, but I'm so grateful for those moments that I really honestly used to feel like were failures. I used to be embarrassed. It used to be embarrassing to me. And now I'm like, this is my testimony. And this is what led me here. And so I just think that It's so easy to think of regret as something negative, but when we reframe it, we often find that our mistakes led us to exactly where we needed to be. They helped us grow. Sometimes even the smallest mistakes can lead to the best lessons. And honestly, I'm so grateful. I really am. So what can we learn from all of this? What is the takeaway from all of these little lucky decisions that have shaped our lives? For me, it's sometimes the little choices, even the ones that we don't think twice about, are the ones that create the biggest impacts in our lives. Our perfect timing, our taking the right advice, our making certain moves. I've learned that we need to stay open to small changes, the gut feelings, the decisions that don't come with a roadmap or aren't always easy. And life isn't always about making big flashy moves. It's often about embracing those tiny moments that in the grand scheme of things make all the difference. So next time you're faced with a small decision, whether it's to go to that party or try a new hobby or take a risk, remember that these seemingly insignificant choices are the ones that can change everything. You never know where they might lead. Okay, so let's talk about the moments that feel like pure serendipity. You know, those lucky breaks that seem to just happen by chance. Perfect timing, right place, right time, whatever you want to call it. You weren't expecting them, and yet suddenly something happens that feels like fate or destiny, whatever you believe in. These moments are magical, and while they may seem rare, they happen when we least expect them. The key is being present in those moments, being open to what life has in store and what the opportunities have in store, and not dismissing the seemingly random encounters. I'm actually a believer that nothing is random and everything has its moment and its purpose, and sometimes we just never notice it. But I am a firm believer that nothing is really random. It feels random, but that doesn't make it actually random. But here's the most interesting thing about luck. It's not always just about fate. Sometimes we create our own luck through our actions, our mindset, and the opportunities that we choose to fully embrace and jump into head on. We create a life that feels lucky. So how do we create our own luck? For me, I've realized that creating my own luck is all about staying open to opportunities, not being afraid to take risks. It's about working hard, but also being willing to embrace unexpected changes when they come along. I never say no to an opportunity that doesn't seem like it's going to put me or my family in harm. And I always dive in with my whole heart, and I get so excited, and I'm always open to whatever that opportunity has to bring to the table. And I think that is really what it's about, because if you don't take the chances, how can you expect to reap the benefits? That's the way I see it. So here's the challenge. Today, I want you to think about the small decisions that you're making and how they might create opportunities for luck to find you. Whether it's starting a new project, meeting new people, or simply taking a different route home, you never know where it might lead. And you could be making your own luck, one tiny choice at a time. Thanks for joining me today on In Your 30s. I hope you're leaving with a fresh perspective on how those small decisions really do add up to something big. If you've enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe and share. Whew. Sometimes my brain just works faster than my mouth, you guys. It's one of the things, It's a quirk. Something awesome about me. Now you know. Leave a good review and subscribe and share, and I would love to hear about some of your most lucky decisions in the comments, big or small. Until next time, take care, and remember, your next lucky decision could be just around the corner. Bye.